Hey guys, and welcome back to Freelance Fridays. Today we're going to be talking about 8 bad habits that fashion photographers tend to get into. And I'm going to talk about them because I feel like I've experienced a lot of these bad habits and done these over the years. And I know a few other fashion photographers who have also fallen into these habits as well. So without further ado, I'm going to get straight into the video and talk about 8 different bad habits that I think fashion photographers get into. So the first bad habit I'm going to talk about today is testing with new faces just because. So this may happen along the way in your career, and everyone really needs to test with new faces at some point in a modeling agency. And this is something that will help you gain contacts through modeling agencies, and it will really strengthen your relationships with them so you can then go on to shoot more experienced girls and guys. But unfortunately, I think a lot of the time, and this has happened to me on several occasions in my career, I tend to get stuck into this habit of just photographing new faces just because. And just because I either need content or because a model agent has actually reached out to me specifically, given me a package and really wanted me to shoot a few of their girls, and I haven't really been that keen on any of those girls in particular for my portfolio. They haven't really aligned with it very well. So this can happen a lot, and a lot of model agents might reach out to you eventually and do the same thing. And there's nothing wrong with this, but I think there's a fine line between doing something that's going to be beneficial for you and your portfolio versus something that can be considered free work. And I think a lot of the time what happens is with these new faces, they are usually inexperienced girls, and a lot of model agents really want to put the word out there for photographers to shoot them because they don't have a lot in their portfolio. And this is all well and good, like I said, when you're starting out and you can kind of grow with these models, these newer models, and really start focusing on practicing with models from model agencies. But you'll get to a point in your career where you may not want to photograph inexperienced models anymore. So it can be a really difficult thing to do, but I think it's really important in those situations, if you do get contacted by a model agent and you don't particularly like the package of models that have been offered to you, or you don't feel like they align with your work, it's important to sort of stand up for yourself and really stand your ground and say, thank you so much for this opportunity, or thank you for sending this package through, but unfortunately there's no one in there that really aligns with my portfolio currently. And there's nothing wrong with you doing this. I have done it on many occasions before, and it's important that you do, because unfortunately getting into this habit can really tend to lessen your quality of work, and it won't make you as enthusiastic, obviously, if it's someone that's not really aligned with your portfolio that you're shooting. It will really start to become monotonous, and it will start to become like a chore doing these test shoots. So it's something that I really do highly recommend that you watch out for and try to avoid getting in a routine of doing those kinds of tests. I think there's also a pull to say yes with these kinds of shoots as well, because you don't want to upset anyone. You want to please the model agents that might be contacting you and keep that relationship strong. But I can promise you that there's nothing wrong with saying no on occasions where you don't feel like someone's going to align with your portfolio. The second bad habit I'm going to talk about today is not considering the theme behind a particular photo shoot or a particular test shoot that you might be doing. I think there's a lot of merit on storytelling and really coming up with a proper concept for a shoot. I think it's totally fine if you want to try something new and you really just wanting to do something spontaneous from time to time. Test shoots are great for that, but I think there is a routine that you can get into, like the first habit I talked about, where you end up just doing a lot of shoots for content and a lot of shoots just because you feel like you have to shoot. And I think there'll come a point in your career where you feel like you don't have to do that anymore, and if you're still doing that, it's a good habit to get out of and to really put your effort into storytelling, to thinking of a theme behind your shoots, and to thinking of a concept. That's really important because a lot of the time storytelling is really what's going to sell your work, especially if you want to do magazine editorials and that kind of work as well. And even with commercial work, you really want to have a concept behind those images and take the time to focus on maybe doing less photo shoots, but more on the planning process, and it will really start to elevate the quality of your work as well. Included in this point, I actually got into a routine a little while ago where I wasn't actually creating a lot of mood boards for photo shoots. It was just that simple and spontaneous. I was getting a lot of models to come along to shoots, and I didn't really have a very good idea in my head of what I wanted the shoot to be. So I think planning is key with this, and make sure to try and have a theme behind your shoot so you don't get stuck into a routine of just photographing because you need content or you feel like you should. The number 3 bad habit is not trying anything new or not learning anything new. And this can be applied to a lot of genres of photography. This can be applied to a lot of different jobs out there. I think it's always great to learn something new and to always be learning and trying different things, because without that, you tend to find that your work becomes a bit stale at times, and it can feel like the job itself becomes a little bit stale if you don't start trying new things regularly. And I think it's always a bit exciting to add that into your business. So I think that's something to avoid if you can, and to make sure you're always learning and expanding your horizons and even going a little bit outside of the box. The fourth bad habit I'm going to talk about is not backing up. I don't think I need to say much on this subject because there's just so many horror stories out there, and I've had my own horror stories of not backing images up. I think we all have to an extent, but this is something that every photographer really needs to do, and to make sure you do it regularly, to make sure you have different forms of backup and not just one hard drive. And this is just something that I feel like I said, I don't need to say much more on because it's pretty self-explanatory, but it is a very bad habit to get into. The fifth bad habit I'm going to talk about is no regular communication between your clients or creative teams when you're organizing shoots. So I've actually had this happen a few times on shoots where I've sort of spoken to a creative team, say a couple of months before a shoot and then maybe a month before the shoot, but then in the lead up, there's really not much communication. You get busy, you get preoccupied with doing other shoots and doing other things. And then you actually start to find out that people aren't on the same page with you come shoot day. They don't really know what's happening. You haven't sort of provided that communication to them in terms of organization for the shoot. It's all well good to send a call sheet, which will have a summary of everything on there. But I think it's really important to keep up regular communication, especially with jobs and things like that closer to the shoot date, because things can change. Models can change and things can change without your knowing, especially on client shoots. So it's good to stay updated and to make sure that you're trying to be as good with your communication as possible, whether that be for your own test shoots or whether that be for client shoots. The sixth bad habit I'm going to talk about, and this can apply to a lot of photographers as well, but waiting for work to come to you. That is a really bad habit, and it's one of my worst habits, I think, from the last 10 years of doing fashion photography professionally, or doing my business professionally. There have been periods where I've been just waiting for the work to come to me, and I haven't been putting myself out there. I haven't been putting my work out there, and I've basically just been literally sitting around thinking, well, hopefully I get something soon. And unfortunately, fashion photography in particular is not like that at all. You've probably heard me talk about pitching a lot on my channel, and you've heard me recommend Olivia Bossett, who is the queen of pitching. So I always recommend you guys to go and check her stuff out and check her education blog out if you can. But pitching is going to be something that you really want to do as a fashion photographer. And to not do it is such a bad habit, because you will be waiting a long time sometimes to find that work coming in. And you've just got to do more. You have to make sure you're not sitting around waiting for work to come to you. You have to always be active on social media, on different platforms online, networking. It's really important that you do that, and you're always kind of keeping yourself busy in that sense. The next bad habit for fashion photographers is not actually considering the fashion in your photo shoots. So I know a lot of people struggle with this, and it's something that I have struggled with over the years, and I still do to this day. I think this is why there are people called stylists who will help you out with this kind of thing. But I think it is really important to be aware of certain trends, and especially fashion trends if you are going to be a fashion photographer. I've heard both sides of the spectrum with this, and I've heard people and certain photographers say you don't need to know anything about fashion, and then I've heard other photographers say you do need to know a bit. And I actually think there's a good middle ground. I think you have to be aware of certain trends or of certain styles of photography and fashion and things like that that are popular if you want to earn money from fashion photography. I think it's really important to be aware of those things. And I think to an extent, research really can't hurt. And that is important. I feel like if you just sit back and you don't know what's going on in the fashion world at all, it becomes really hard to base your photo shoots around fashion when that's the case. So I think it's always important to do your research when it comes to this and to consider it from time to time. And then the last bad habit I'm going to talk about today is not charging appropriately for your time. Now, I think fashion photography is such a time-based business. Everything is revolving around what you're charging for your time. So I think it's very important, like I've said before, to do your research. I actually have a How to Price Your Photography ebook if you guys are interested in looking at that. The link is down below to my website where that is. But I think it's really important to find out how much your time is worth. And this is such a cliche thing to say. And I think there's ways to break this down and make it easier. But this is something that you definitely need to do as a fashion photographer in this industry, and find out how much your time's worth. Find out how much time you are spending doing certain tasks so you can appropriately charge for that. All right, guys, so I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you enjoyed listening to these bad habits that I have actually gotten myself into from time to time. And I hope that you guys can avoid these as much as possible. But if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please click the subscribe button and the notification bell to make sure you see all the videos I have in future. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.